have a bit of a confession to make. Some of you may already be aware of this. When I started out doing various things on the internet, it was my idea that I was actually going to do a blog. In fact, my blog is still out there, blogs.kpschubert.com. I haven't contributed anything to it in quite a while. But I came to the conclusion that it was more powerful to actually do videos over the course of time. I'd love to be able to get back to doing my blog, and maybe at some point I will find that I have the time to do that. But at this point, that's not really something I have to do. I bring this up because I started initially with the idea that I was going to do a couple of things. One of them was going to be politics related with a sideline in philosophy and culture and various similar things. And one of them was going to be technology related. And another was actually going to be autism, but that's another thing entirely. But the point is, and by the way, periodically I do talk on autism on this thing that you're watching right now, the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. By the way, I'm your host. I'm Kurt, and today is Sunday, the 26th of December of 2021. Welcome to everyone who's here on Rumble, on the podcast, on YouTube. Remember that Rumble is my preferred platform. We're going to be talking, by the way, about an augmented reality today. But the reason I bring all of this up is I wanted initially to take the time to do certain things tech-related, and I just came to the conclusion I really wasn't willing to put in the effort to do that where the tech-related stuff is concerned. I do want to take the time today, as I say, though, to discuss this idea of virtual and augmented reality, and I'm going to go ahead and go through my notes to give you some idea why I'm doing that, and then we'll talk a little bit more, obviously, on the backside of that about what more I feel like I need to say. If you're at all into computers, you've either heard about or maybe even toyed with the ideas of virtual and augmented reality. That said, I still want to take a moment to tackle a basic question or two where they're concerned. For those who are not aware, virtual reality is the construction of a new thing, a new environment, if you will, out of whole cloth. It may be based on reality, but the intent is to make a world in which one can have any and everything he or she desires. That may be more on the part of the person creating that world than the person who ends up using it or viewing it. It may also be true that the creator makes it possible for those using his or her creation to modify it. Sometimes it'll be in subtle ways, sometimes in more substantial ones. Augmented reality is an attempt to add to what is by giving you information or imagery that wouldn't exist but for the augmentation. A simple example of augmented reality would be your GPS unit that tells you how fast you're traveling and ostensibly the speed limit on the road you're presently driving. Of course, it also shows you the road you're on as well as how to get from point A to point B when you ask it to. A more extreme example of augmented reality would be a pair of glasses that displays additional information on the inside of the lenses. Various companies have tried to make such a thing fly. If you're at all familiar with such technologies, you'll also be aware that for the most part, they have not been successful. It's been my contention for some time that technology companies have seriously oversold various concepts they think are good ideas. One example has been touchscreen on things like laptops. Yes, there are people for whom such a concept is a good idea. That said, many benefit so little from such things that it's generally horribly wasteful to generically add the feature to most devices. Now, that's obviously not true for things like phones, but anyway, it is true for things like laptops. I would say the same is true for both virtual and augmented reality devices. Is there a market for such things? I would definitely say so. How large is that market? That's another question, and one for which I think the answer remains to be seen. For my part, I have basically no use for virtual reality. I can't say no, but almost no. I've seen places where it makes a nice toy, which is sort of what I was talking about when I said the last thing that I said. For me, though, it's never been much more. Augmented reality has a little more use in my view, like the aforementioned GPS unit. Even so, I generally have to ask just how large a market it'll probably have. Forgive me for saying as much, but I honestly don't believe either will grow to be all that large. Am I correct? The question remains unanswered to this point. Keep your eyes open to see if I'm right in my view of virtual and augmented reality. One of the things that's sort of driving my wanting to talk about this, obviously you should probably be able to tell I'm done with my notes. One of the things that's driving my wanting to talk about this is the whole metaverse concept. This whole concept of stepping into a virtual world that is essentially virtual reality and it replacing in large measure our time in the real world. I don't care if the real world is a wonderful place or a horrible one, because an emaciated me sitting in a chair all day with a headset on my head that covers my eyes is not something that I want. And if you're smart, it's not something you want either. Does that mean you can't do things like play virtual reality games, for example, use a VR headset or an AR headset or whatever to play a game? No, it doesn't mean that. It just means that if you allow those things... Look, I remember years ago when the Dungeons and Dragons craze really hit. I don't know, maybe it was there for a long time before that. I can't answer. All I know is that most people did not seem to be all that excited by Dungeons and Dragons before that all happened. People disappearing into rooms, various places where they stayed for days and days on end playing games of Dungeons and Dragons. I have to tell you something. Those people did nothing for their futures. They did nothing for their present moment. They probably harmed themselves more than they helped themselves. And to be fair, they might have had a good old time with a few people periodically. But the fact of the matter is, just like with a lot of the things that I see today, Magic the Gathering. And I know lots of people like it, and I'm not saying you can't enjoy anything like that at all. I'm saying getting tied up in it to the degree that you forget about real life. The same thing applies to virtual reality. Augmented reality, as I say, makes a little more sense to me in certain regards. You can say, well, what's augmented reality about having something tell you how fast you're going when you're sitting in a car? Well, let me tell you how that works. The thing about that speedometer that you use is somehow it is connected to your vehicle. The GPS unit, it's not. It's doing its thing separately and then reporting to you what it finds based on information that it's getting. So, in that sense, it sort of augments reality as it does in, like I say, showing the path where you're going and so forth. But I want to make it clear. I think these things have a market. I don't think it's as large as a lot of people want to think it is. I think the concept of the metaverse and the way that Mark Zuckerberg or whoever thinks it's a good thing, I think the thing that they're thinking is good there. It's not. And for most people, I'm going to advise you, I not only don't want to be in the metaverse, I barely want to be on Facebook. Okay? Pushing me even farther into a non-real world, which is unfortunately what it becomes for a lot of folks. Pushing me even farther into that is far worse as far as I'm concerned. And getting people to submit themselves to such a thing so that you can manipulate their reality is even worse yet as far as I'm concerned, or allow them to manipulate a mental, emotional, psychological reality such that when you take them out of it, their life is garbage, basically. I don't think that's a good thing. I don't think it's a good thing. But yet again, the real question here is how well will these things take? And I think the answer for most people is they won't. I hope the answer is for most people they won't, because if they do, I fear for our society as a whole. Okay, I need to go ahead and wrap up. I'm at about the end of my time, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap up now. This is the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I'm your host. I'm Kurt, and today is Sunday, the 26th of December of 2021, that day after Christmas. Tomorrow will be today is the beginning of the Christian week. Tomorrow will be, for most folks, the beginning of that work week before the New Year's, that has New Year's in it. or at the end of it, I guess you could say. So it'll be Monday, the 27th of December of 2021 tomorrow. Thank you for everyone who's been here on Rumble, on the podcast, and on YouTube. Remember, Rumble is my preferred platform. You can give me a boxing glove or a Rumble on Rumble if you choose to do so. You can give me a plus on Rumble if you want to say that you enjoy my content. You can give me a minus if that's not the case. You can give me a thumbs up on YouTube. That is a like, or a thumbs down on YouTube if you don't like what I'm putting out there. There are other platforms that I'm on these days. I try to put myself on BitChute and can't think of the other one, but CloutHub. So if you want, you can check me out there. On any platform that you can like or dislike my content, I would appreciate it if you gave me that feedback so that I know what you are feeling about what I'm doing. You can also, of course, comment on any platform that I put my output, my content. You can do that, and I will do my best to pay attention to it, particularly if they let me know that somebody has commented on something that I've done or made some other kind of feedback. I'll do everything that I can to pay attention to it. I will try and internalize it, as I've said before, to decide whether or not what you're saying is something that I should be paying attention to, and if I feel it appropriate, I will respond. Hope things are going well for you. Hope you're doing well this first day of the Christian week. And hopefully we will see you again on Monday's edition of the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. The speaker on this edition of the Daily Summation is Kurt Schubert. This video was recorded on Sunday, the 26th of December of 2021. The Daily Summation is created for Kurt's Religion and Politics. Thanks for watching this edition of the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I hope you found it entertaining or instructional, or maybe both. If you want to see more from me, you can go to blogs.kpschubert.com. That's blogs.kpschubert.com. I am on Twitter, Parler, and Minds.com. My handle on each of those is @kpschubert. That's @kpschubert. I have a Rumble and a YouTube channel. They are the Kurt's Religion and Politics channels on Rumble and YouTube. I have a Facebook page. The Facebook page is Kurt's Religion and Politics as well. I am on Patreon. If you want to support me, that's one of the better places you can do that. And you will find me at Kurt's Religion and Politics on Patreon. I have a podcast. The podcast is podcasts with an S, .kpschubert.com. That's podcasts.kpschubert.com. I think you should be able to find me with relative ease on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify as well. The best way I find to do that is to look for Kurt's Religion and Politics. You can try to use the Daily Summation. I find that it doesn't work as well as a general rule, but you can always try that. I'm glad to have you aboard today, and hopefully we will see you again tomorrow.